Good afternoon from the Titanic Museum in Pigeon Forge. It's Ryan.
And Bree.
And here's what we'll be showing you on today's video.
We did a tour of the Titanic Museum in Pigeon Forge with Katie a year ago, and a number of things have changed since we made that first tour video. We are boarding the Titanic again, this time with Jodi, to check out all the new Christmas decorations and rooms that have changed at the museum. We will hear all new stories focused on the 135 children that were on board the Titanic that the museum is currently highlighting. We'll also hear some popular music of 1912 from Josh, who's legally blind, as he plays both the piano and violin in their music gallery. We'll show you some other new things added and something special in the gift shop. If you loved our last Titanic tour, we hope you'll love this one too.
So without further ado, let the adventure begin.
Before we get started on our tour of the Titanic Museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, I just wanted to mention we highly recommend getting tickets in advance. If you don't have tickets already, you can walk up to these ticket machines and see what boarding times they have available. Everyone 13 and up is $35 a ticket. Kids 5 to 12 are $15 a ticket, and all kids 4 and under are free. We'll go over how you can save money on Titanic Museum tickets at the end of this video. When you come to the Titanic Museum in person, you'll be utilizing their audio tour devices they give you, and you'll be able to walk through at your own pace. We have special permission to film, and we'll be taking you on a private tour with one of the crew of the Titanic Museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
So good morning. We are here at the Titanic Museum with Jodi. She's going to take us around and show us your new display. Can you tell me all about that?
Sure. This year, for the first time, it's 13 years since we've been open, we have changed all of our Christmas decorations. So since this year and next year are the year of the Titanic children, we have teddy bears all throughout the museum. They're just to honor the families that were on board, sort of pay tribute to what it took for them to change their life to be on the Titanic, to go to America for a better life, and then how they struggled to get everyone onto lifeboats. Now they are red, it's a symbol of love that all of us have for families during Christmas celebrations.
You said all the Christmas decorations are new, so if someone's been here before, this is going to be a totally new
Absolutely
experience.
new, here and in Branson.
Okay.
And I don't think Branson has changed theirs for 16 years. So this is the first big revamp of our Christmas decorations.
And tell me about the artifacts that have come in with the children.
There were 135 children on board the Titanic. Now in 1912, a child is someone 15 or younger. At 16, you're an adult. So there are 135 children on board, only half of them would survive. This is the biggest insert of artifacts that we've had since grand opening, and it's the biggest collection of children artifacts that are under one roof anywhere in the world. Now we did give you some boarding passes. We gave you an adult and a child. So here is yours. Oh, that's his. This one is yours. So you are Lillian Asplund. That is a little girl on the Titanic, and she's actually in our lifeboat upstairs. So we can show a little bit of her. Now for an adult, you're one of our Jewish passengers. That was last year's display with the Jewish passengers. And you are William Mellors. You get to be 18 today. And you are a 2-year-old little boy, Edmund Navertil, and we have one of his artifacts upstairs. It's probably one of my favorite artifacts on display right now because we have a picture, 2 pictures of him with the artifact.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
So
That's
come on,
awesome.
let's go.
Okay.
Now in this room, this is really all about the Maiden Voyage. So our guests will get to see, you know, even when I started here 14 years ago, I didn't realize Titanic made 2 stops. So everyone can go over here and notice that. It's also where they find out that all of our artifacts are real. Our artifacts were found floating in the ocean, came off victims' bodies, carried off by survivors, or even mailed off the ship. And then when we're in here, we also show the guests that all the cards, the show cards, will show you who owns the artifacts. Like this one is from the Titanic Historical Society.
So do the artifacts change every year?
Not as much as everyone thinks. It does depend on what we are honoring that year. If we have a descendant coming in, for instance, if Molly Brown's great-granddaughter, Helen Benzinger, comes here, we have some of her artifacts, so we'll make sure it's here. Where if she's in Branson, they make sure that she's in Branson. So we make sure if there's a descendant there, they can be with the artifact.
Makes sense. Beautiful. Okay.
So step right this way. Here's some of our lovely bears. Aren't they adorable?
They are adorable.
We have big ones and little ones, and then on the ear, it'll actually have the name of a child. So when a guest adopts a bear, they actually adopt the name of a child too. Whenever we Christmas decorate, we're here till about 1 or 2 in the morning, and our crew loves it because whenever they come in the next morning, it's like Christmas fairies have been here,
Right.
and different galleries are all decorated.
How fun.
And we try to make it fun for the crew too. This year it was a pajama party, so we were all throughout the ship in our pajamas.
Oh, that's awesome.
This room is all about, we call it the drawing room, and it's all about drawing of the blueprints. So these men are drawing the blueprints in Harland and Wolff Shipyard. This is the only known picture. This building is still there. It was just refurbished as a event center, and the adjoining buildings are a hotel.
Wow.
So it sort of gets guessed the, how it took to design the ship and who designed the ship, the lovely Thomas Andrews.
And he was on board the ship, correct?
He was. He does not make it off the Titanic alive. A little known fact about him is he did not like that White Star. They marketed Titanic as virtually unsinkable, not unsinkable, which is a common misconception. They marketed it as virtually unsinkable because he hated that, because anything man-made could be sunk. I mean, he would like to think that his design was perfect, but everyone knows that there's flaws.
Nothing's perfect.
Exactly.
Right? Yes.
This room is all about the shipyard and building the ship, and this is our first Titanic children's artifact. So this is gorgeous. I love the color green. So this has all to do with the Laroche family, and Joseph Laroche is the only black man on the Titanic. He is an architectural engineer, and his uncle is the president of Haiti. So the family sent him to Paris to get his education, and that's where he fell in love with the beautiful Juliet. Now they got married, had 2 daughters, then they found out she's pregnant with number 3, and he's having trouble finding a job. Racism was high in 1912. So they decided to go back to Haiti. Having your uncle as the president should help you get a job. Now the sad part of their story is they were scheduled to be on a different ship, but they wouldn't let the children eat in the dining room, so they switched the Titanic. Joseph Laroche lovingly kissed his wife and 2 daughters goodbye and put him in a lifeboat. That's what the dads did. Once Juliet gets to New York, she doesn't go to Haiti. She doesn't know his family. So she goes back with her family in Paris. She gives birth to a little boy, Joseph Laroche Jr., and he's the one that carries on the Laroche name. The youngest girl, Louise Laroche, she actually had this pendant on a necklace as she was on the Titanic, and then we've taken a picture and blown it up so people can see the detail. So it's quite intricate and I think pretty extravagant for a, 1-year-old little girl.
Yes.
But in the pictures, they both have long necklaces on.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And it's valued at $35,000. It's part of the auction company that we deal with, Henry Aldridge and Sons in England. So I haven't heard it's going for auction, but for them to have it, it might be. So if anyone has a spare 35, yeah. So I fell in love with this artifact when we first opened 13 years ago. And we had it for about a year, and then it went to Branson. So getting it back is like having an old friend back. Yeah, I was like, we got Madeline Mellinger's bracelet. So she's 13. And she's on board with her mom. She's a very well-mannered young girl, so they've given her her first piece of grown-up jewelry. Normally you're 16 when you get something like a copper bracelet. So I can just imagine she's at school going, right over there, showing her friends.
Yes.
But she earned that.
Yes.
So she's on the Titanic with her mom. They do get into a lifeboat, and that's where she realizes she's lost her bracelet. She's upset for a little bit, but she realizes, better on a lifeboat without my bracelet than on the Titanic with my bracelet. So she's okay. When the sun comes up, everyone notices something shining in the bottom of the lifeboat, and they realize it's her bracelet.
Wow.
Now it is damaged, it's been stepped on, smushed. The family encourages her to have it fixed, but it's unfixable. And then they encourage her to melt it down and make something else. But in her 13-year-old little mind, she decides to keep it broke. And it was a symbol that she survived the Titanic. She could survive anything. So it was a reminder that, she could survive anything in life. And then upon her death, she willed it to the Titanic Historical Society.
I can see why you really appreciate this piece with that story.
Yeah,
It's
I
amazing.
love it. I mean, at 13, I don't know if I would have wanted a new piece of jewelry.
Right, to
you know?
have that maturity
Yes.
and be thinking that way, yeah.
So to have it back, like I said, it's like a lost friend is back.
Very special.
Now, probably in some of your last videos, Katie has told you about Father Brown's pictures. These are the only pictures of life on board the Titanic. Father Brown was an avid photographer. Even without the Titanic pictures being known, Kodak was so impressed they gave him film for life.
Wow.
So he was lucky enough to get off the Titanic in Queenstown, Ireland, with over 150 pictures. At first, he went town to town talking about the Titanic, but when White Star found out, they asked him to stop. As he was talking about the Titanic, it kept that emotion level high, and I liken it to 9/11. We don't see the planes hitting the towers anymore, and when we do, we go right back to that day and we feel those emotions. So Father Brown put all these pictures in a trunk, put it in the attic of his church, died in 1960, and these were not discovered till 1985, which is the same year Titanic was discovered. So all of our Titaniacs say it's Titanic itching to be discovered.
Right, right.
So all these pictures were taken with a Browning camera like this. This is just a vintage one. It's not his, but it was taken with one like that. And while he was on the Titanic, he went to the gift shop. Yes, Titanic had a gift shop. And he bought a pin cushion for his mom. So this
And
is
that's
something,
it.
yes.
Wow.
And then he wrote this letter off the Titanic to his niece. Now this is very rare. There's only 3 of these. And the reason it's rare is the way it's folded. It wasn't just stationary. It was like a letter and an envelope together. So as you see, you write on this side, it folds under and then folds down.
Was that a common thing back?
I haven't seen many, not even like not from Titanic.
Right.
So I think people still like to write and fold up the letter, and so that it says there's only 3 of them today written on RMS Titanic stationery. He wrote, "The ship is lovely and I wish I were going the whole way." And then he realizes, no, I don't.
Nope. Nope.
Oh, I hear Amy Stanley talking. Now, the biggest question we get in 3rd class is everyone sees the room and they're like, "You said it was the real size." Well, the average man was 5'6", the average woman was 5'2". They didn't have the disease prevention or the growth hormones in their food, so that's why everything's little.
Okay.
Yes.
That answered my question. Why were people shorter then? Okay.
Exactly. Well, also, I had an uncle that had scarlet fever when he was little, so it stunted his growth. And he mentally was maybe 14, and he was only about this big. So if you got those diseases, it could have stunted your growth. In real life, my boys are 6'4", so
That wouldn't work.
that wouldn't work at all.
Yes.
And single men were in the front and single women were in the back. So if you and I were both single, even though we didn't know each other, we could have had to share a room, sort of like college.
Right.
And the rooms could have held 4, 6, 8. And it was $35 per berth, BERTH, which is per bed.
Okay.
Now, if you are a family and if your children will share a bed, then it's only $35 for both of them.
Okay.
So I'd be, you all are sharing a bed.
Yes.
All of you are sharing the bed.
So $35, then what is that today?
About $1,500.
Okay. Yeah,
And if
you're
you-
definitely sharing.
And I make $5 a month.
Oh, wow.
Average man made about $80 a year. And it's not, you still have your rent, your food, your children's clothes, shoes. So it took a while to save up.
Right.
And I love our little elephants.
Yeah, I love the Christmas decorations.
You are actually Lillian Asplund. Her story is a little sad story. The older brothers and her twin brother do not make it off the Titanic. They are separated. When they said women and children first, it was mom, all the girls, and the little boys. So even though she was 5, somehow they got separated. And she loses her twin brother in the sinking. But her baby brother is with them. So this is actually the ring that came off her dad's body, and her mom kept it all of her life, of course. And here is Lillian, and then here is her twin brother.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, especially a twin, you know,
Yeah.
they carry such a bond.
Yeah.
And we are honoring Lillian in the lifeboat upstairs too. So when you sit down, we've got some passengers, and passengers can push the button and they'll tell the story.
Okay.
Oh, and then the grand staircase. This is the one that probably did the biggest change. All the garland changed, all the decorations. It's just spectacular.
Stunning.
Spectacular. And what we get here is everyone goes, well, Titanic didn't make it through Christmas. We know. But the Olympic, her sister ship, did. Using pictures of the Olympic and just Edwardian type decorations, we're giving Titanic the Christmas she never had. And this year, we just want to honor those families. As I said with the Asplunds, what they had to went through. They had to decide whether to separate their families or not. Believe it or not, Molly Brown, her family does not think she would have gotten into a lifeboat. She was upset that the officers were trying to separate families. And in 1912, to do that, that was dooming the female, the mom, to poverty.
Right.
Women couldn't vote, they couldn't own property. You're going to have to go to work. Money wasn't good for women. There's no daycare. So your children are going to have to stop going to school either to watch the younger kids or to work themselves. And think about child labor in 1912. So Molly Brown was just getting at those officers, and one of them picked her up and threw her into lifeboat number 6, breaking her ribs.
Wow. I never knew that.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Yes. So we just want to honor those families and tell their stories. Our crew did research, but you know, this was the hardest one for them to research because it's children and we have to study. They do go to Titanic College, and this one was just hard because it's children and it's family, and we tend to put ourselves in those shoes.
Sure.
So we just want to tell, you know, everyone their stories and symbolize the red bears, you know, red as a symbol of love. So that's what we want to do this year.
Do a lot of descendants come and visit? How often?
How often? Well, it seems like we'll get like a whole bunch in a row and then not for a while. And then we have people coming through all the time, you know, telling us that they're a descendant of so-and-so. So we actually have a special form for them to fill out in the gift shop so we can make sure. We do have a historian that researches that. We are sanctioned by the Titanic Historical Society, so we never want to damage that relationship. So it's a big process, and that's how we get the boarding passes, is from descendants.
Oh, okay. So you get that information from them to put on the boarding passes.
Like, why were they on board? And you know, even if they passed on the Titanic, they know why they were on board, or they could have correspondence, or you know, or if they don't know anything, we at least want to invite them to events that we do for descendants. So we want to honor them too. Now, Miss Katie told you in the last video about the flooring, right?
She did.
So we're going to make sure not to scuff the linoleum.
Yes,
you know,
because
it is expensive.
Yes.
It's not like we can find it just anywhere. That has to be my favorite Titanic fact.
Isn't that interesting how the value of things changes over time?
You know, when I see their
how we see
faces,
it.
I'm like, think of the iPhone when it first came out, how expensive it was.
Right.
And now the first generation, how, you know, it's my favorite Titanic.
Yes. I love this room.
Isn't it the parlor suite?
Yes.
And this year, we are honoring the Astors. So John Jacob Astor is on board with his wife, Madeline. They are honeymooning, and when you're rich and famous, you honeymoon for a year or so.
Hey, we need to catch up a little, honey.
Yeah, honeymoon for a year. And they're actually the reason Molly Brown was on the Titanic.
Oh, really?
She had found out her grandson was sick in America, and they said, hey, come with us on the Titanic. I'm sure she's thanking them a lot right now.
Yeah.
Well, Madeline, the night we struck the iceberg, she gets in a lifeboat. She panics because John Jacob can't go with her. At this point, no one really is sure whether we're sinking or not, so they get out, go into the gymnasium. John Jacob cuts open a life jacket to show her what it's made of. It's cork, it's linen, it's going to keep you safe. Hot tea to calm her down. Finally go back out, get her into a lifeboat. He asks if he could join her. He says, my wife is in delicate condition. And they said, no, it's women and children first. Took off his gloves, gave her his gloves to keep her warm, and said, Madeline, do not take that life jacket off till you feel safe. Well, John Jacob Astor does not survive. He's probably the most prominent body recovered, and this is the pocket watch and his cufflinks that were off his body. They are engraved. When I have students come through, a big question is why couldn't they identify some of the bodies? We didn't have driver's licenses or anything back then. First and second class passengers, they had everything monogrammed. Jewelry, cufflinks, hankies. If you read, ink pens, pencils, checkbooks, tons of things were monogrammed. Third class and crew members, their clothes were all monotone. They couldn't afford the bright colors. So it's not like you can even identify their clothing, so it was hard to identify them. So boy, when you saw those cufflinks and the initials, it was easy to identify.
How often do you guys change this room?
This room, not very often. It has been about Isidore and Ida Strauss for 13 years.
Oh.
Yes, that is gone to Branson.
Okay.
So they're honoring, and then they were honoring the Astors, and now we are. So this is the first time this room has changed.
Okay, because I thought it was the Strausses.
The co-owners of Macy's department store.
Yes, that's what I thought it had been for a while.
Yeah,
Yes.
forever, forever.
Yes.
Yes. So sometimes it's hard for me to remember, oh yeah, switch gears, it's a
Right.
different. I mean, but this story, you know, has been prevalent throughout the museum. It's just the first time we've had it here.
Okay.
And then these are just vintage dresses. They're not from the Titanic. They're just from 1912-ish, just to show guests how you would have dressed.
They're gorgeous.
Aren't they gorgeous?
Yeah.
I can just imagine a pretty hat with it.
Mm-hmm. A nice dinner.
A nice dinner, some tea gloves.
Yes.
It's always fun to, it's funny because, you know, as soon as you put on a dress, you tend to go, hi, and you get that little prissy look.
Right.
Those hands go out.
We've been
You have to
taught
be
that
first class.
since we were little girls.
I know, and then you put the dress on and there it is.
Yep.
The music gallery. Now, to complete the story from the last gallery, John Jacob Astor told Madeline not to take her life jacket off till she felt safe. Well, she didn't feel safe for 3 days and nights until she got to New York. New York, the family whisked her away to the doctor because she was pregnant. And the doctor's the one that physically took it off of her and kept it in his office for years. So this is Madeline Astor's life jacket.
Wow.
Out of the 3,500 odd life jackets on board, only 9 exist today, and only 3 of them are whole. The other ones were cut off, and only 3 of them we know who wore, but she was the most prominent. And you can see the cork and linen in it. And it's one size fits all. Once again, you can see how little everyone is. I do have a life jacket that we've made that I take to schools, and I make sure I bring the littlest child up and the biggest child. You know, this, and sometimes when you put it on, the little ones, it just goes straight through. So they get to try on life jackets too whenever we go to the schools.
That's fun.
Try to make it very interactive.
So different than they are today, huh?
Now these are all vintage 1912 Edwardian type shoes. The reason we have them here is we wanted to give back to today's children. So we have coordinated with Samaritan's Feet. Samaritan's Feet put socks and shoes on children around the world. Manny, who is the president of this company, got his first pair of shoes from a missionary. He lived in Africa. He was the first person in his village to get shoes. That prompted a basketball scholarship in America, and he just realized a lot of diseases are through your feet. So whenever we go to these schools or we go to these boys and girls clubs, we actually take their shoes off, we wash their feet. We humble ourselves to these children, wash their feet, ask them what their favorite color is, get them all interactive, put socks on them, and then shoes. And what I've seen our crew members go through is they're sitting across from a little boy. He said he's in a size 5, and they realize he's in a 6 or even a 7, that he's been cramming his feet in those shoes. And then they get up and they show us how high they can jump or how fast they can run, just to see the joy in their face for shoes.
Wow.
For shoes. That's all it is. Shoes and the smiles. So that's what we're doing. Samaritan's Feet just celebrated 10 million shoes this month. So we have little shoes for sale in the gift shop and online, and the money goes back to Samaritan's Feet, so we can help put shoes on children around the world.
Well, that's a wonderful ministry. Yeah. That's
And just, I
amazing.
love the fact that we clean their feet.
Yes. That's what Jesus did when
Exactly,
he came.
and that's
He
what
washed
Manny,
their feet.
humble ourselves to these children, the
Right.
next generation,
Right.
to show that they matter.
Yeah. Wow. That's really touching.
You'll have to go with us one day.
Yeah. I
Yes,
would love to do
you have to
that.
volunteer. Everyone volunteers. So we're going to go on to the next children's artifact.
As we work our way through the bridge of the Titanic, passing the wheel that you can control out to touch the 28-degree water, If you're enjoying this tour so far and think Jodi is doing a great job, if you could make sure to like this video and make sure you are subscribed to our channel, both are free and easy ways to support our efforts to make more videos just like this. Next, we pass a movie room that's playing a video about the world's largest Lego Titanic ship that we'll show you in just a little bit.
So this is the children's gallery, and what our interior decorator didn't think about is that this little display that she just wanted to show a 1912 classroom became a photo op.
Oh,
because you can now take pictures on the second floor of our museum, which started last year. That's due to copyright laws and agreements with some of the collectors. Some of them are starting to let pictures. So we come up here all the time and children are sitting here. And what I really love is they ask what this is. Cursive. Did find out some of the schools are starting to teach cursive again. Now you had Edmund Navertil, and come see his picture. So I love this because he's the youngest Navertil boy. Here he is holding the cat, and in this picture he's holding the tin battleship.
There you are, holding the cat.
Oh, do we not like cats?
I love cats. He likes dogs.
Team dog.
It's an ongoing
I do have dogs. I rescue bulldogs. So this one, when I have students here, I'll go, you know, I think he really loved this cat. How do you think I came up with that? And this one little boy yelled, "It's bald." I'm like, you're right, it is. I think he rubbed its head a lot.
Yeah.
So, you know, I try to get them to think why I, you know. So yeah, he loved that little cat. But I love it because I can actually show the students pictures of them with the artifacts. Now in just a moment, we'll be doing a virtual field trip. Last year was 86,000 students in 50 states and 6 countries. And then nursing homes and retirement homes jumped on board. Either myself or Branson, Missouri, we take an iPad through the museum, and it's about an hour and 15 minutes. We send them boarding passes.
So what a great opportunity for people who can't get here to see it in person. They can do the virtual tour.
Yeah, and they can add it to their curriculum.
Absolutely, very
It started
educational.
with Miss Giese from Wallenpaupack, Pennsylvania. I just like saying Wallenpaupack. She's the one that started it, and to this day, 8 years later, she still requests a virtual field trip for her 3rd graders. 8 years later.
That's wonderful. So Jodi just left. She had to go do a virtual tour, but we're going to continue on and try to highlight a few things she mentioned. So let's go check out the lifeboat.
I always love this little area to the right where you can see what it's like at certain times of the evening that the Titanic sank. And you've got the lifeboat over here to the left. And who are we looking for? Lillian? Lillian. Oh, I see it.
So here you can come and listen to Lillian's story along with some others in the lifeboat. So this is a replica of the actual lifeboats, just cut right in half, but you can come and sit and see what it was like to be in one of the lifeboats.
There's actually some interactive elements over here to the left that you can play with, as well as some knots that you can try to tie over here. Some of them are not as hard as they actually seem. Here's the Titanic area. So a little puzzle, a wheel that the kids can steer, and another interactive element over here that kids can play in. So this is a great museum, not just for adults who want to learn about the history of the Titanic, but there's lots to do for kids as well. Let's head into the next room.
So Jodi had to run off to do a virtual tour, but we have Ginger with us who's going to tell us a little bit more about the children on the Titanic.
Yes, this is the Caldwell family. You had Sylvia and Albert and their 10-month-old little boy, Alden. They were missionaries in Siam that we now know today as Thailand. And years later, if you look over here, they found Alden's shoes that he had on aboard the Titanic, along with the photo of him, and you can see him in that picture. And on the back side is another picture of him on there, and they were able to verify that yes, that was him aboard the Titanic and indeed had those shoes on. So it is such an honor to have those here, such a rare thing and such a wonderful story of the Caldwell family.
So Alden survived.
Yes, all 3 of them survived.
All 3 of them.
Mother, father, and child.
Okay, you don't hear that story often, so
No, ma'am.
that's wonderful to hear.
They were traveling because she was having a lot of health issues being in Thailand, and so they were on their way back to America, and she was very, very ill the whole time on that voyage. And so a lot of the pictures, you will see that Albert is holding Alden because she was so weak and just so ill. I don't know exactly what the final diagnosis on her was, but she was so ill that I know that when they went to get her aboard the Carpathia, that they had to do a special lift just to be able to get her up because she was so weak. So since we are honoring the children that are aboard the Titanic, we give the children that come through as guests the opportunity to write their child's name on one of these cards, and it's to honor the children that were aboard the Titanic. I'm sorry, it makes me emotional. And the children really love doing this, and they hang their cards on there in memory of the children that were aboard.
That's wonderful. So they really get that connection.
Oh, they do.
With that child.
They do, and a lot of times I'll be in this room, this is a room I'm assigned to a lot, and they'll come in and they'll ask me more questions about their children. And it gives us the opportunity to share the stories of the 135 children that were aboard the Titanic. Louise Kink, who was 4 years old, her daughter is still alive and actually donated little Louise's shoes to our Branson, Missouri ship. And so that's really cool to have these extra stories to add on them. Jamila Nicola Yared and her brother Master Elias Nicola Yared, a miracle that those two children survived because they were aboard the Titanic by themselves, because the father had gotten turned away at the health inspection because he had this horrible disease that we know of today as pink eye. Oh. Yeah. And so, and that those two children survived, what a miracle, that truly was. And there's so many stories with all the children on here. Yeah, that's the one with the cat. And then let's see, who are you? Rosa Penske. Rosa Penske did survive the Titanic. And if you looked on that Jewish board in there, there's not a photo of Rosa. And a lot of these people, there was only silhouettes. We have silhouettes up on them because they could never find a photo. We don't know if it was religion, superstition, economics, or possibly could have gotten lost in one of the world wars. There was never a photo of her, but she did survive. Okay. And there's not a whole lot known about her afterwards. Some of these people just kind of disappeared over time, lost track. We didn't have social media to do like we do now to keep track of people, and she was one of those that we don't know a whole lot about her afterwards. Okay. Lillian Asplund, half of that family survived, half of them did not. And so if you look up here, hang on, this is funny. I always carry a little pointer in my pocket.
Oh, that's smart.
And so Edvin is the baby. This one is not in the family, and Lillian is a 5-year-old twin, and here's mom. My understanding is that the father was handing them the children over, so he hands her the baby, then the only daughter, and then that's when the Titanic plunged. And so then we lost father, the 5-year-old twin, and then Clarence and Philip. And so that was a very tragic story because they were so close to all of them making it. Culture was a lot different in 1912. It was all about family, and a lot of times families didn't want to separate, and it made it hard. If you went to a lifeboat and there wasn't room for everybody, what decision do you make? And so, but most of them, they chose to stay together, and there's so many heartwarming stories of these big families that stayed together. Some of them, unfortunately, didn't get to a lifeboat in time, and so there was a lot of loss there. Some of the great stories, the Frankie Goldsmiths, and the Nicola Yareds, those whole families, there's wonderful stories, and those what we want to, that's what we magnify. That's what we want to encourage the children by. And the kids are always excited when they come in here because they're like, yes, I survived, I survived, and they're high-fiving each other. And so that makes it happy. And then in the next room, they can go in on the survivor wall and look their person up. And if there's a picture that exists, that's where it'll be, along with an update of what happened to them beyond the Titanic.
So now we're leaving the memorial room. We're headed into the Discovery, which the Titanic was found September 1st, 1985. So as you come to this next room, they actually have the uniform of the owner of this Titanic museum.
He went down on the second expedition to the Titanic in 1987.
They added this Titan Ocean Gate Memorial tribute to this room.
So here are some photos that he was able to take while he went down there. So when John went down, they found this leather bag, and it had not started to deteriorate. The barnacles don't like the tannins that are in the leather, so they left it alone, and it was in excellent condition when they brought it up. They were able to open it up and get the contents inside.
They also have the world's largest Lego ship in here, as well as the Survivor's Wall of Stories, so you can learn what happened if you survived after the Titanic.
We then got to peek in the Titanic Museum's secret dining room that we'll be back to in February for a Valentine's Day dinner. So make sure you are subscribed if you're not, to see what that dinner event is like here on our channel. We also went back to the music gallery room to catch Josh, who's legally blind, play the piano and violin. Here are a few highlights.
And you play the piano and the violin?
Yes.
Would you play something on the violin for us?
I thought you'd never ask.
Here in the gift shop, you can see the red Titanic bears that they have on sale. These come in at $25, and you can see that each tag has a different child passenger's name. They also have a number of Titanic Christmas ornaments here in the gift shop.
So they have these beautiful ornaments that are hand painted. They're actually hand painted from the inside, which is really cool. You can get here for $20. Really like this one with the mountains and the Titanic. There's also this bell-shaped ornament, which is really, really pretty. Again, all hand painted. We've got the grand staircase. Just a beautiful ornament.
As we leave the gift shop, I did want to mention, if you buy your tickets online in advance, you are able to save $3 off the $35 ticket price. You can also check out their different combo deals with other local attractions on their website that we'll put a link to in the description of this video. We hope you have enjoyed going over just a few of the stories about the children of the Titanic. If you'd like to hear more of them and see more artifacts, we'd encourage you to do so in person at this Pigeon Forge Tennessee location, or its sister ship in Branson, Missouri. If you have watched this far, we did want to say thank you to a subscriber with 2 free tickets to the Titanic Museum. All you have to do is leave the phrase Titanic Museum Pigeon Forge in your comment on this video. We'll pick a comment at random on a future live stream. We'd love to hear your favorite part of this tour in the comment section, or feel free to ask any questions you may have. A big thanks to Jodi, Ginger, Josh, and all the amazing Titanic crew for helping us with this tour. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next adventure.